On April 12th, 2021, a Georgia state trooper radar checked a car driving 100 miles an hour down I-20 in rural Carroll County, Georgia. The trooper pulled out and attempted to stop the car, and the two cousins in the car, Aaron and Pierre Shelton, they initially stopped, they waited for the trooper to get out, and then they sped off again, taking that trooper on a high-speed chase across Georgia. No one knew the amount of chaos that was about to unfold in Georgia, and that a few hours later would end with one person dead, 3 cops severely wounded, and a handful of police cars completely destroyed.
Shots fired with an AK. Shots fired. Shots fired with an AK. Shots fired. Advise shots fired. He's shooting at me with an AK. They're mile marker 13. We still don't have the DC. We don't have the description yet. Alright, he's shot my motor out. Shots fired to no further. He's in a Nissan heading eastbound. Are they still 1080 or heavy? He's still eastbound. I'm going to get I-20 shut down. He shot my motor out. I'm starting to lose sight. There's a passenger shot with an AK. He is, like I said, passenger is armed with an AK. There's another firearm in the car. I believe the driver had on him.
After that P.I.T attempt, one of the two cousins in the suspect vehicle, Pierre Shelton, he leaned out of the passenger side window and opened fire on the trooper with an AK-47 rifle, which incapacitated the trooper's car. Several miles up the road, Carrollton Police Sergeant Rob Holloway would intercept the suspect vehicle, and he picked up the chase. As Officer Holloway catches up to the suspects, Pierre Shelton again leans out of the passenger window and opens fire from the car while they're driving over 100 miles an hour. And that's when this happens. As you saw, Pierre Shelton fired a couple of shots as they drove at nearly 100 miles an hour. One of those shots struck Sergeant Rob Holloway in the head, rendering him unconscious immediately as he was driving at a high rate of speed.
I'd rather go ahead and disable him.
Dozens of officers immediately abandoned the chase and stopped to help Officer Holloway in an attempt to try to save his life.
I need a 1052 just up from the triangle. I need a 1052 West Georgia auto transmission. City officer unresponsive. Driver's seat. Head-on collision.
While many officers tended to Officer Holloway, a perimeter was set up down the road several miles out, and deputies Jamison Trout and Jay Repetto continued chasing the suspect's vehicle, driving over 120 miles an hour in an attempt to catch up with them. They followed the suspect's vehicle until they got off of the highway and turned onto a side road. The deputies in the pursuit knew that this road was blocked off by other units, so the deputies stopped out on the highway and waited just in case the suspects decided to turn around and come back out. While the deputies waited out on the highway, a few minutes later, the deputies heard gunshots. Believing that more officers were now in danger, Deputy Trout and Deputy Repetto jumped in Deputy Trout's SUV and they followed after the suspects.
Whoa. Stop right here? Yeah.
As the deputies turned the corner, they spotted another officer's vehicle, but it appeared as if Officer Chase Gordy's police car and the suspect vehicle were both stopped and there was no activity around them. Officer Gordy was unresponsive on the radio, and fearing for his safety, the deputies approached Officer Gordy's car to see what was happening.
Hey, let's move down! Let's move down! Yeah, let's move down, come on. Yo, it's a killing Mary.
The Carroll County Sheriff's deputy unloaded his firearm into Pierre Shelton, but Pierre kept coming towards him. It was then that Deputy Repetto pulled out his personal revolver and fired one shot at Pierre Shelton, striking him in the head, killing him instantly. Unbeknownst to law enforcement, the first shots that they heard while they were out on the highway, it was a shootout between Officer Gordy and the suspect. Officer Gordy had been shot during the exchange and incapacitated, and Pierre Shelton was walking towards him to try to finish him off when Deputy Repetto and Trout pulled up and drew Pierre Shelton's attention away from him. The decision to move forward by Deputy Repetto probably saved Officer Gordy's life. After Pierre Shelton was down, law enforcement quickly pulled up and began looking for Officer Gordy. They quickly found him a few yards away, laying in the brush. He had managed to get away as far as he could before he collapsed, which bought him just enough time for Deputies Trout and Repetto to pull up and draw Pierre Shelton's attention away. It didn't take officers long to realize that the driver of the car, Aaron Shelton, had now run away. So they called in the Georgia State Police SWAT team and their helicopter unit to help track down the remaining suspect.
I believe that's GSP SWAT. They engaging? They going in? In reality, it makes so much sense. They have direct comms for the bird.
Somebody's laying down behind the
Storage unit, get down here about storage unit.
Okay, Trooper 3, we have eyes on him. Just so you know, he's 1.2 miles to the due east of Jeff's Road. For the troop that's ahead of the canine there, just off to your left-hand side, that's where we thought it looked narrowest.
I think Coast Guard would be able to do a lift out for Vision.
What kind of shape's he in? Do we know?
The Georgia State Patrol SWAT team walked Aaron Shelton out of the woods to a sea of police officers who are all waiting to watch him be captured. Amazingly, because of the swift response by first responders, all 3 officers who were shot survived their injuries, including Sergeant Holloway, who was struck in the head. As soon as the sun came up the next morning, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Carroll County Sheriff's Office launched an investigation into what happened that night. And although Pierre Shelton was deceased, his cousin Aaron Shelton was arrested and arraigned on 22 charges ranging from speeding all the way up to attempted murder on a police officer. Aaron Shelton was held in custody, and in July of 2023, he had his day in court. His defense was that he didn't shoot any gun and that he just drove the car, but ultimately a jury of his peers found him guilty on all 22 counts, which included murder because he was charged in the death of Pierre Shelton because it was in the middle of a criminal act, so he got charged with his own cousin's death. And the judge sentenced Aaron Shelton to life in prison without the possibility of parole. By this time, in July of 23, all 3 men who were shot at had recovered, and they all testified during the trial, and they all gave impact statements at the sentencing. Aaron Shelton was shipped off to the Georgia Department of Corrections and is currently serving his life sentence without the possibility of parole.